My name is Elizabeth Turner. I'm 31 years old, and the sentence that ended my marriage came from my 6-year-old son while I was cutting strawberries at our kitchen counter in Columbus, Ohio. Mom, Noah whispered, Dad has a secret phone. I stopped with the knife halfway through a strawberry. He looked toward the hallway and leaned closer. I promised I wouldn't tell you. At first, I thought he meant an old phone James had given him to play games on. Then Noah said his father kept it in a black pouch inside the garage cabinet and sometimes took it outside after I went to bed. 2 days earlier, James had caught him holding it and made him promise it would be their secret. My hands went cold. James and I had been married for 8 years. He had never needed a second phone for work. And 3 nights earlier, I had watched him step onto our back porch at 11:40 p.m. because he claimed he needed to check the weather. I forced myself to smile at Noah. You're not in trouble, sweetheart. But I promised Dad. I know. That was the first thing that hurt. James had not only hidden something from me, he had pulled our child into hiding it. By the next evening, I would see a message on that phone that made an affair almost impossible to deny, but the message underneath it frightened me more, because it suggested James and the woman he was talking to were not simply waiting for a chance to be together. They were waiting for something from me. Before I tell you what that was, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there, and if you've ever discovered that one small secret was covering a much bigger one, stay with me. I nearly confronted James that afternoon. If I had, I would have warned him too soon. For months, there had been small changes in James. He started showering as soon as he came home. His regular phone suddenly traveled from room to room with him. If it buzzed while we watched television, he tilted the screen away before checking it. When I asked why he seemed distracted, he blamed a restructuring project at work. When I asked why he had started going to the gym on Thursday nights after years of Saturday mornings, he laughed and said turning 35 had scared him. After Noah finished eating, I asked one question. Did Dad say why the phone was secret? He shook his head, then said, He said grown-ups need private things. My stomach tightened. Did he call anyone? A lady talked once. What lady? I don't know. The phone talked in the car. James came through the door at 5:26 that evening carrying barbecue. He kissed Noah's head, kissed my cheek, and talked through dinner as if nothing in our marriage had changed. Then he asked, Did you sign those papers from Mark? I had almost forgotten them. 3 days earlier, James had left a refinancing folder from mortgage broker Mark Ellison on the dining room table, supposedly to lower our payment and consolidate some home improvement debt. No, I said. I want to read them first. His fork paused. Only for a second. Sure. I just don't want us to miss the quoted terms. What terms? He took a drink. Nothing urgent. Half an hour later, James carried the trash toward the garage. The interior door closed. 4 minutes passed. Then he came back without the bag. I looked toward the trash still sitting beside the kitchen door. Forget something? He turned too quickly. What? The trash. He glanced behind him and laughed. Apparently my brain. That was the moment I stopped wondering whether Noah had misunderstood. James had gone into the garage for something else. At 9:15, after Noah was asleep, James sat beside me on the couch. His regular phone buzzed. He checked it, stood, and said he was going to shower. You showered when you got home. The sentence came out before I could stop it. The room changed. Long day, he said. Then he walked upstairs with his phone. I went to the dining room. The refinance folder was beneath a stack of mail. I opened it carefully. Most of it looked ordinary until I reached a page with a highlighted signature line. Above it was a proposed cash-out amount, $46,000. I read it twice. James had never told me we were taking $46,000 out of our house. He had told me we were refinancing to reduce the payment. The shower started upstairs. I photographed the page, returned the folder exactly where it had been, and walked into the garage. The black cabinet stood behind James's workbench. Paint cans, cords, tools. Second shelf. Nothing. Then, behind a plastic container of drill bits, I saw a black zippered pouch. Inside was a dark blue phone. No family photo. No visible notifications. Just a 6-digit passcode. I tried James's birthday. Wrong. Our anniversary. Wrong. Noah's birthday. Wrong. A warning appeared. I stopped. Locking the phone would tell James someone had tried to open it. As I returned it, I noticed a folded receipt beneath the pouch. A convenience store in Dayton. The purchase had been made the previous Thursday at 8:17 p.m. Bottled water, coffee, and a prepaid phone refill. Dayton was more than an hour from Columbus. That same Thursday, James had told me he was at his gym until almost 10. I photographed the receipt and put everything back. When I entered the house, James was standing at the bottom of the stairs. "What were you doing in the garage?" My heart slammed against my ribs. I held up the laundry detergent I had grabbed on the way out. "Running low." His eyes stayed on me. "We have another bottle upstairs." "I forgot." It was a terrible answer. But he smiled and walked past me. Upstairs, I checked the family location app we both used. James's location from the previous Thursday had been unavailable from 6:41 until 10:06. I remembered asking him about it. "Bad reception at the gym," he had said. Now the explanation looked different. The next morning, I called my older sister from the parking lot at work and asked if James had mentioned Dayton recently. She went quiet. "Why?" "Just answer me." 2 weeks ago, he asked if Mom still used that orthopedic clinic near Dayton. My mother had gone there after knee surgery years earlier. Why would he ask? He said someone at work needed a recommendation. That did not prove anything, but now Dayton had appeared twice. At lunch, James texted me a picture of Noah holding a drawing. Under it, he wrote, "Our little scientist says, this is a cell." A minute later, another message arrived. "Don't forget the refinance papers. Mark needs them Monday." The papers again. I replied, "I'll review them tonight." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, he sent a thumbs up. That evening, James put Noah to bed at 8:30. At 9:05, he came downstairs holding his keys. "We're almost out of allergy medicine. I'm running to the pharmacy." The bottle in our kitchen cabinet was half full. I said nothing. The garage door opened. His car pulled away. I waited 1 minute, then went outside. The pouch was still there. James had left the secret phone behind. When I lifted it, the screen lit before the passcode appeared. A message preview flashed across the top. "Lauren, I hate waiting like this. Did she sign it yet?" I stopped breathing. A second message appeared. "Lauren, because once the money clears, you said there would be nothing keeping you there." I stood alone in the garage with my husband's secret phone in my hand. The affair was no longer the only question. The question was what $46,000 had to do with it. Then the phone rang. The name on the screen was Lauren. And from the driveway outside, I heard James's car door close. For 1 second, I could not move. The phone kept vibrating in my hand. James was outside. I put the phone back into the pouch, pushed it behind the drill bits, and closed the cabinet just as the door from the garage opened. James walked in holding his wallet. "Forgot this." I was standing beside the washing machine. His eyes moved from me to the cabinet, then back to me. "What are you doing?" "Looking for stain remover." He stared at me long enough to make my skin prickle. "Under the sink," he said. "Right." I walked past him. James did not follow immediately. From the kitchen, I heard the cabinet door open, then close. 20 seconds later, he came inside. "I'll be back soon." The garage door lowered behind his car. I stood at the kitchen window until his taillights disappeared. Lauren. I knew 3 Laurens. One worked with me. One lived 2 streets over. The third was James's cousin in Cincinnati. None made sense. I opened the refinance folder again. $46,000. This time, I read every page. The loan would replace our mortgage with a larger one and release cash after closing. James and I were both listed as borrowers. Near the back, I found something I had missed. A bank account ending in 7814 had been designated for the proceeds. I did not recognize it. Our joint checking ended in 2009. Our savings ended in 6142. I photographed that page too. Then I noticed another detail. The contact email listed beside James's name was not his normal address. It was a Gmail account made from his initials and a series of numbers. Another secret. I sat at the dining room table staring at the paperwork. An affair would have devastated me. But this felt organized. James had a second phone, a second email, an account I did not recognize, a woman asking whether I had signed documents that could release $46,000 from our home. And James had apparently told her that once the money cleared, nothing would keep him there. James returned 28 minutes later with allergy medicine and a bag of chocolate-covered pretzels. My favorite. He placed both on the counter. Peace offering. For what? He smiled. For bugging you about paperwork. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. You okay? He asked. Just tired. He kissed my temple. Go to bed, I'll lock up. I did. But I did not sleep. At 12:18, I heard the bedroom door open. James walked downstairs. I waited. A minute later, the back door slid open. I moved quietly into the hallway and looked through the upstairs window overlooking the yard. James stood near the fence with the blue phone against his ear. He spoke for almost 11 minutes. At one point, he laughed. At another, he lowered his voice and turned toward the house. Then he said something I could not hear and walked back inside. I was in bed before he reached the stairs. The next morning, I did something that felt ridiculous until I remembered the message. I called Mark Ellison. His number was printed on the refinance documents. Mark, this is Elizabeth Turner, James Turner's wife. His tone brightened immediately. Elizabeth. Great. I was hoping we could get those signatures wrapped up. I had a couple questions. Of course. How much cash are we taking out? Silence. Not long, but noticeable. James said you two had discussed that. We have. I want to make sure I understood you correctly. He hesitated again. The current estimate is around $46,000 after costs. And where does that money go? The account provided for disbursement. Which bank? Another pause. I'd need to pull the file. Please. I could hear typing. Then Mark said the name of a bank I had never used. Is that account jointly owned? I don't have ownership information on my side. Who provided it? James sent the instructions. My fingers tightened around the phone. Did I ever speak to you about this refinance? Not directly. Did I ever email you? No. James said your work schedule was difficult and he was handling most of the preliminary process. There it was. James had been speaking for me. I thanked Mark and told him not to move forward until he heard directly from me. His voice changed. Is there a problem? I'm still reviewing everything. I hung up. At 10:07, James texted. Did you call Mark? That fast. I looked at the message for nearly a minute, then replied. Yes. Had questions. His answer arrived immediately. You could have asked me. I typed. I know. Nothing else came. At lunchtime, my phone rang. James. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey. What questions did you have? He sounded casual. Too casual. About the cash out. We discussed that. We discussed refinancing. It's part of the refinance. $46,000 is a pretty significant part. He exhaled. Elizabeth, we talked about fixing the roof, paying off the cards, maybe replacing your car. We had talked about those things separately, never about borrowing $46,000 against the house. Why does the money go to an account I don't recognize? Silence. There was my answer before his explanation arrived. It's a temporary account. For what? Mark recommended separating the funds until we decide how to distribute them. Mark had said no such thing. Okay. James seemed surprised. Okay. I'll read everything tonight. His voice softened. Good. I don't want money turning into one of those stupid things couples fight about. That afternoon, I searched our household records. I found nothing connected to the unfamiliar account. Then I checked the credit card James usually used for gas. 3 Thursdays, 3 charges outside Columbus, 1 in Dayton, 2 near Springfield. Each happened on a night James claimed he had gone to the gym. At 3:40, my sister called. You sound weird. I need you to do something for me. What? Remember when James asked about Mom's orthopedic clinic? Yes. Exactly what did he say? She thought for a moment. He asked whether it was still near Kettering. Did he mention someone from work? Eventually. Eventually? He first asked whether Mom liked the doctor. I asked why, and then he said a coworker was looking for a place. Did he say who? No. I almost ended the call. Then my sister said, Elizabeth? What? There was something else. I waited. He asked if Mom ever stayed overnight there. My stomach dropped. Stayed where? In Dayton, when she had appointments. Why would he ask that? I assumed he was trying to help whoever he was talking about. I thanked her and returned to work, but my mind was somewhere else. Why would James care whether someone could stay overnight in Dayton? At 4:12, I searched the restaurant from the credit card charge. It was not near the orthopedic clinic. It was beside a cluster of extended stay hotels. Then, while loading the dishwasher, he said, I was thinking about the refinance. I kept my eyes on a plate. What about it? Maybe we should just forget it. I turned. Why? You seemed uncomfortable. I'm reading the paperwork. I know, I just don't want you feeling pressured. That should have reassured me. Instead, it terrified me. Something had changed after my call to Mark. James was retreating, or pretending to. Okay, I said. Let's forget it. His face relaxed. Too quickly. Really? Sure. He smiled. Probably for the best. At 10:30, he fell asleep beside me. At 11:05, I heard him breathing deeply. I went downstairs. The refinance folder was gone. I searched the dining room. Nothing. The drawer where we kept financial documents. Nothing. Then I went into the garage. The black pouch was gone too. James knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. I returned upstairs and lay awake until morning. Sunday afternoon. Noah and I were building a model volcano for school when he suddenly said, Dad told me our secret is finished. I looked at him. What secret? The phone. I kept attaching paper around the plastic bottle. What did Dad say? He said he doesn't need it anymore. Did he tell you anything else? Noah nodded. He said I did good. My hands stopped. Good at what? Keeping the secret. Something inside me broke then. Not because James was cheating. Not because of the money. Because my 6-year-old son looked proud that his father had praised him for successfully deceiving his mother. I put the project aside. Noah, look at me. He did. You never have to keep a secret from me because an adult tells you to. Surprises are different. Birthday presents are surprises. Secrets that make you worried or scared should always be told to a safe grown-up. His expression changed. Is Dad mad? No. Are you mad? Not at you. He climbed into my lap. I held him until he started talking about dinosaurs. That night, I made myself a promise. Whatever happened between James and me, Noah would not become collateral damage. Monday morning, Mark called. Elizabeth, I wanted to confirm your request before I close the application. James canceled? He emailed yesterday. I looked across the parking lot at my laboratory building. Did he change the disbursement account before canceling? Mark became careful. Why are you asking? Because I'm a borrower. Another pause. Yes. New instructions were uploaded Friday. Friday. The day after I questioned James. Different account? Yes. Can you send me copies of every document associated with the application? As a listed borrower, yes. 20 minutes later, they arrived. I opened the updated form. The new account was our joint checking account. James had changed it after realizing I was asking questions. He was cleaning the trail, but he had missed something. Attached to Mark's email was an earlier version of the file, and inside that version was a voided check used to verify the original disbursement account. The name printed on the check was not James Turner. It was James Turner and Lauren Bennett. Joint account. My hands began trembling. Lauren Bennett. Now I had a last name. I searched it. The first result was a LinkedIn profile. Lauren Bennett, 33, Operations Coordinator, Dayton, Ohio. Her photograph appeared on my screen. Dark hair, green eyes, familiar smile. I had seen her before. Not in Dayton. Not online. In my house. 11 months earlier, James had brought co-workers to our backyard for a cookout. Lauren arrived with wine, played with Noah, complimented our house, and asked how long we had been married. In my kitchen, I told her we had bought the place 4 years earlier and put most of our savings into the down payment. I scrolled farther. Her employment history showed she had left James's company 7 months ago. James had never mentioned it. Then I found something else. A public photograph posted by a Dayton charity 6 weeks earlier. Lauren stood among a group of volunteers. Behind her was a man in sunglasses. James. The caption thanked volunteers who had helped with a Saturday fundraising event. That Saturday, James had supposedly been helping his brother repair a deck. I called his brother. Random question. Did James help you with the deck last month? What deck? I closed my eyes. Never mind. Elizabeth, is something wrong? I'll call you later. But I still did not understand the joint bank account. If James intended to leave me for Lauren, why take money from our house first? And why had Lauren asked whether I signed it, rather than whether the refinance was finished? That distinction bothered me. At 5:20 I arrived home. James was cooking pasta. Noah was coloring at the table. For the first time since this began, I looked at my husband and felt no urge to confront him. I wanted information. James smiled. How was work? Busy. Mark said the refinance is officially canceled. I know. He stirred the sauce. Probably dodged a bullet. Rates weren't that great anyway. Then James said something that almost made me look up. By the way, I might have to travel Thursday. Where? Cincinnati. For work? Yeah. Overnight? Probably. I smiled. Okay. Thursday morning, James packed a small suitcase. At 7:10, he kissed me goodbye. At 7:12, he hugged Noah. At 7:15, his car left our street heading toward the highway. At 8:03, I called his office. I did not ask for James. I asked whether a package could be delivered to him during the Cincinnati meeting. The receptionist sounded confused. What Cincinnati meeting? I said I must have misunderstood and hung up. At 8:17, I checked the location app. Unavailable. Of course. But this time, I had already made a decision. I took the day off. My sister picked Noah up from school. And shortly after 9, I drove toward Dayton. I did not follow James. I did not know where he was, but I knew where Lauren lived. Her address had appeared on the voided check. I parked across from a row of townhouses shortly after 11. James's car was not there. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then a delivery van pulled away from the curb, giving me a clear view of Lauren's driveway. A dark blue sedan sat there. Beside it was a small moving trailer. Cardboard boxes were stacked inside Lauren's open garage. I zoomed in with my phone. Some were labeled kitchen, others bedroom. Then I saw one marked Columbus. Lauren stepped outside carrying another box. A man followed her. James. He was not wearing work clothes. He wore jeans and the gray sweatshirt I had given him for Christmas. Lauren turned toward him. James kissed her. Photographed them. James carried the box into the trailer. Lauren returned inside. Then he came back carrying a framed object wrapped in a blanket. As he adjusted it, the blanket slipped. It was a photograph. James, Lauren, and two people I did not recognize standing in front of a cabin. I took another picture. A few minutes later, Lauren walked toward her mailbox while speaking on her phone. James remained in the garage. I was about to leave when another vehicle pulled into the driveway. A silver SUV. A woman stepped out. Late 50s, maybe early 60s. James walked toward her and hugged her. Lauren did too. The woman handed James a folder. He opened it immediately. They spoke for several minutes. Then James pointed toward the moving trailer. The woman nodded. I recognized her. Her name was Patricia Bennett, Lauren's mother. And I had met her once before, at my house. She had not introduced herself as Lauren's mother. She had introduced herself as a real estate agent. 6 months earlier, James had brought Patricia into our home, supposedly for a casual estimate because neighborhood values had risen. She photographed the kitchen, measured the basement, asked about the roof and what we owed, then told us we had a lot more equity than most couples our age. The refinance had not been the beginning. Someone had been calculating the value of my house months before James ever placed those papers in front of me. And whatever James and Lauren were planning, her mother knew about it. Then Patricia opened the folder again. A page slipped free and landed on the driveway. James picked it up. For only a second, he held it facing the street. I could not read the words, but I could see the photograph printed in the upper corner. It was me. I stayed parked across the street until James, Lauren, and Patricia disappeared inside. Then I drove away. I did not confront them. Not yet. 20 minutes later, I stopped at a coffee shop and opened every photograph I had taken. I enlarged the image of the page James had dropped. The text was impossible to read, but the photograph in the corner was unmistakable. It was my employee identification photo, not a picture from social media, not a family photograph, my laboratory ID. I immediately checked my wallet. My badge was there. Then I remembered something. 3 months earlier, I had misplaced my wallet for an entire weekend. James found it Sunday night beneath the passenger seat of his car. At least, that was where he claimed to have found it. I called my sister. I need Noah to stay with you tonight. Her voice changed immediately. What happened? I found James. With someone? Yes. Oh, Elizabeth. There's more. I told her enough to make her understand why I did not want Noah home when James returned. Then I called Mark. I asked whether anyone had submitted identification documents for me during the refinance process. Yes, he said. James uploaded them with the initial application. What identification? Driver's license, employment verification, and… Employment verification? A pay statement. I had never given James one. Send me everything submitted under my name. Within 15 minutes, another email arrived. My driver's license, my laboratory badge, 2 pay statements, a copy of our homeowner's insurance, and an authorization form containing a signature that looked remarkably like mine, except I had never signed it. I called Mark again. That signature isn't mine. He went silent. Elizabeth, are you saying you did not authorize the initial application? I'm saying I never signed that page. I need to escalate this. Please do. Then I called an attorney. Her name was Rachel Monroe. My sister had used her firm during a property dispute years earlier. Rachel listened without interrupting while I explained the phone, the account, the refinance documents, and the signature. When I finished, she asked one question. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? Yes. Then don't confront him alone. She told me to preserve everything I already had and stop searching for more, if doing so required accessing accounts that were not mine. Then she said, and Elizabeth, don't sign anything. James came home at 7:38. I watched him through the doorbell camera from my sister's house. At 7:41, he called. I let it ring. At 7:43, he called again. Then came the text. Where are you guys? I answered. Noah is with my sister. I needed some space. 3 dots appeared immediately. Space from what? I stared at the screen, then typed 2 words. Lauren Bennett. James called before the message even showed as read. I answered. Elizabeth. His voice sounded different. Come home. We need to talk. I agree. Then come home. Noah stays where he is. A pause. Why are you involving him? That question almost made me lose control. You involved him when you made a 6-year-old promise to hide your phone. Silence. Complete silence. Then James said, I can explain that. I'm sure you can. The phone isn't what you think. I saw you kiss Lauren today. Another silence. Longer. You followed me? No. Then how? It doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. No, James. What matters is that you told me you were going to Cincinnati and spent the day at Lauren's house in Dayton. His breathing changed. Then he said the sentence people use when the truth has become too large to deny. It's complicated. No, it's organized. He stopped speaking. I continued. The secret phone, the joint account, the refinance, Patricia inspecting our house, my identification documents, my signature. Elizabeth, my signature, James. Come home. No. We cannot do this over the phone. We're not doing anything tonight. I ended the call. He sent 11 messages. I answered none. The next morning, Rachel met me at her office. By then, Mark's company had frozen the application internally and preserved the documents. Rachel spread the copies across a conference table. This, she said, tapping the authorization form, is where their problem gets much larger. She compared the signature to my driver's license. It was good, but not perfect. Then she asked about the $46,000. I showed her the joint account belonging to James and Lauren. Rachel leaned back. So your husband attempted to direct proceeds from jointly owned property into an account he shares with another woman? Yes. And you never authorized that account? No. Good. The word surprised me. Good? Good that you found it before anything. Closed. Rachel advised me to separate my income, change passwords on my personal accounts, preserve our joint financial records, and avoid moving shared money without legal guidance. Then she asked whether I intended to remain married. I looked at the forged signature. No. The next surprise came that afternoon. Mark called. His compliance department had reviewed the application history. Someone had uploaded a second document using my name. Not the refinance authorization. A letter. It claimed I intended to leave my job after the refinance and relocate temporarily for family reasons. I read it twice. Why would anyone tell a mortgage company I plan to leave my job? Rachel understood before I did. They may have been building an explanation for why your income or contact information would change after closing. My stomach turned. James and Lauren were not simply planning their exit. They had been preparing mine. That evening, I met James at our house with Rachel present. He looked exhausted. The moment he saw the attorney, his expression hardened. "You brought a lawyer?" "Yes. This is our marriage." "No. The affair is our marriage. The financial documents are something else." James looked at Rachel. "I'm not discussing private matters in front of her." Rachel calmly placed her card on the table. "Then you should obtain your own counsel." He looked at me. "Elizabeth, please. Who created the letter saying I plan to quit my job?" His face changed. "What letter?" "Wrong answer." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Who copied my badge?" "Nothing." "Who signed my name?" "I never forged your signature." "You submitted it." "I thought you had signed it." "Who gave it to you?" He rubbed both hands over his face. "Lauren." "Why did Lauren have a document with my signature?" "She said Patricia had someone preparing the paperwork." Rachel spoke for the first time. "Someone." James looked at her. "I don't know." "What was the $46,000 for?" James looked at me. "A fresh start." "With Lauren." "Yes." "And you wanted me to finance it." "No." "You were taking equity from our house. I was entitled to part of that equity." "Then why did you need my forged signature?" He had no answer. I asked about Patricia. James admitted she had valued our house because Lauren wanted to know whether refinancing could produce enough money for them to relocate. "Relocate where?" "North Carolina." I remembered the boxes marked Columbus. "You were moving?" "We were considering it." "When?" "Soon." "How soon?" He stared at the floor. "Next month." Then I asked the question that had bothered me since Dayton. "Why was my photograph on Patricia's document?" James looked confused. "What photograph?" I showed him the picture from the driveway. His reaction was immediate. He knew. "What was in that folder?" "I don't know." "James." "I swear." Rachel interrupted. "Elizabeth, that's enough." Before leaving, I removed my personal documents and enough clothing for several days. James followed me to the front door. "Are you taking Noah?" "He's already with me." "He's my son too." "I know. And we'll handle that properly." His voice cracked. "Elizabeth, I love him." I turned. "I believe you." He looked surprised. "That's what makes using him to hide your affair worse." I left. 2 days later, Patricia called me. I almost ignored it. Rachel suggested I let it go to voicemail. Patricia left a message saying there had been a terrible misunderstanding and that Lauren wanted no conflict. The next voicemail was more interesting. Patricia said the document with my photograph had nothing to do with the refinance. Rachel smiled when she heard it. "Keep that." The following Monday, James retained an attorney. Within days, the explanations began changing. First, he claimed the refinance had been a legitimate marital financial plan. Then he admitted the secret account but said the money would have remained untouched until we agreed how to use it. Then Lauren's attorney claimed she believed I had consented. The documents said otherwise. Messages recovered from James's regular email account showed that Lauren had written, "She'll never agree if she understands the cash part." Another said, "Your wife reads everything. Don't leave it sitting around too long." But the message that stayed with me was from James. "I'll get her signature. She trusts me." Patricia's folder contained preliminary North Carolina rental applications, James's income records, and a worksheet estimating what he and Lauren could afford after the refinance. My photograph was attached to a summary of our household finances. Beside my salary was a handwritten note. "Remove after closing." For days, I had wondered what James and Lauren were waiting to take from me. The answer was not simply $46,000. They wanted my cooperation long enough to unlock the equity. Then they planned to remove me from the equation. The refinance never closed. No money was transferred. But the forged paperwork and false representations did not disappear simply because the plan failed. James and I established a temporary parenting arrangement through our attorneys. I never told Noah details about the affair or the money. One evening, while we were eating cereal at my sister's house, he asked whether Dad's secret phone was why we were not sleeping at home. I put my spoon down. It was part of a grown-up problem. His eyes dropped. Because I told? No. I made sure he looked at me. You telling me did not cause the problem. The problem already existed. Dad said secrets can hurt people. He's right. Noah thought about that. Then he asked, even his? Yes. Especially his. The divorce took months. Our house was eventually sold. After the mortgage and legitimate obligations were handled, the remaining equity was divided according to the settlement. James did not get the $46,000 he had planned to take. Lauren did not move to North Carolina with him. In fact, their relationship collapsed before our divorce was final. He apologized several times. He said he had started the affair believing he deserved excitement, then built lie after lie to protect the first one. When Lauren began talking about a future together, he convinced himself that taking his share of the house early was justified. Then every obstacle required another deception. The phone, the account, the documents, the signature. Noah. I don't know when I became this person, he told me. I did. Not on the day he bought the secret phone. Not when he kissed Lauren. Not even when he submitted my documents. It happened each time he reached a point where telling the truth would cost him something, and chose another lie instead. 1 year after, Noah whispered to me in our kitchen. I moved into a smaller house 15 minutes from my laboratory. The first night, Noah helped me unpack plates. He was carrying a box when he suddenly stopped. Mom? Yes? Do we have secrets here? The question caught me off guard. I crouched beside him. We have privacy. What's the difference? I thought about it. Privacy is something personal that belongs to you. A bad secret is something someone makes you hide because they're afraid of what will happen if the truth comes out. He considered that carefully. So, birthday presents are okay? I laughed. Birthday presents are definitely okay. He smiled and continued unpacking. That night, after Noah went to sleep, I sat alone on the back steps. For months, I had replayed the moment when he whispered about James's phone. I used to think that was the moment my marriage ended. It wasn't. My marriage had been ending quietly while I was still living inside it. The whisper simply opened the door, and strangely, the thing I once wished I had never heard became the thing I was most grateful my son had trusted me enough to say. If you've stayed with Elizabeth's story until the end, tell me in the comments, what would have hurt you more? The affair, the financial betrayal, or involving a child in the lie? And if stories about betrayal, consequences, and finding the strength to rebuild speak to you, subscribe and stay with us for the next one. Because sometimes the biggest secret in a family isn't the one hidden inside a phone. It's how long someone believes your trust will keep you from looking.